In Sekiro, the parry is king. Causes posture damage, looks cool, and it's what the game wants. But what if we ignored that? This is the story of the drunken shinobi who, after one too many shots of sake, forgot how to parry and instead had to rely on dodging. Here's how it went. And if you enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe, it helps out a lot. Our story begins waking up in a well. Not sure how we got here, but with a pounding headache, a little memory of the previous night. A couple of minutes later, we found Lord Koro, who gave us back our sword, which I have to question his judgment, giving a hungover shinobi a sharp object, as well as our sake flask, medicinal gourd. Things were kicking off, so we decided to travel with Koro to a nearby field, but we were interrupted by our drinking buddy Genny. I vaguely remember beating him at beer pong the previous night, but he was a good sport, so I don't think he was too bitter about it. Well, I was wrong about that. So after losing Koro and gaining a new prosthetic arm, which also turns into a grappling hook, somehow. But leaving that side, we went on the search, ran into one of the locals who also must have had a bit too much as thought I was a completely different character. Grabbed some firecrackers, and then we came across Shrek, who has definitely seen some better days. He was fine to deal with as we just kept dashing around his bag whenever he went for a grab or an attack and kept chopping away at his ankles. We ran into the World Serpent who offered some God of War Ragnarok spoilers, but we politely declined. I knew Gyobu could be problems, so I stopped by the separated temple to get some fancy additions to my new arm. I also praised the connoisseur of our sake bottle, although was a bit concerned about her encouraging underage drinking. Gyobu ended up not being too bad. We cleared through first phase with a combo of Akko crackers and plenty of opening strikes. Second phase was a little slower and we couldn't avoid everything. By spamming crackers to fill that posture bar, chasing him down, and sticking to his right side, which helped as it restricted his attacks that he could use, we finished him off first try. Afterwards we went into the nearby house and met this cool looking swordsman named Tengu, although things didn't start off the best. It was also here that I found I'd forgotten my name. It really must have been some strong stuff had last night. Handily, our new friend gave us a new name in the meantime. I like it. In return we helped him with his pest problem, doing a quick assassination, in return got some new skills to learn. We dealt with the Blazing Bull pretty well. Mostly. Did have a couple of Matador moments, but mainly tried to stay near his back, chopping out his thighs until his vitality went down. Before heading up to Genny, I wanted to grab something real quick. A prosthetic material for a spear, which I think will come in handy later for Guardian Ape, but may have issues with that. We travelled back to the discombobulated temple to grab a new skill set, including one very important one called Mikiri Counter. This allows us to dash into thrusts to cause posture damage, super helpful for the upcoming Genny fight. Or so I thought. The sculptor did warn us off his Buddha, which to this day, I'm still not sure what he was implying. I then started heading towards Genny, although did get distracted and was killed. Although that wasn't enough to keep us down. We continued and it was time to face Genny again. I let him know that taking the arm was a step too far and he would now have to be our ex-drinking buddy. Now remember when I said that Mikiri counter would be helpful in this fight? Well, I forgot to buy it, which did end up coming back to bite me. But overall the fight went fine. Just replaced the parry timings with a dash to the side, and in most of the cases it made him stop any sort of combo, with the second phase being even easier with some cool lightning deflects. And with that, it was done. Or perhaps not. I said a quick comment about how impractically big his bow was, especially for doorways, which he agreed with. And then he disappeared. I'm sure we'll catch up later. Met back up with Koro, who wanted help with something, which, when I tried to help, we got some Pokemon Professor message coming up, so we had to pick the other option. But then Koro changes our minds, so we might as well pick the first option in the first place. I don't know why there's two options. Anyway, we went on a wander and met Ishin, and I don't know what it was, but we immediately became friends. We had a quick drink to celebrate our meeting, and after getting some new directions from our new drinking buddy, it was time to set off again. I don't know what it was, but Ishin reminded me of Tengu from earlier. I think they'd get on. Grabbed a quick key near Koro and was time to continue the journey. We headed to Senpo, where not a huge amount happened. The strange thing with Sekiro is that there's rarely, if ever, a mob that you can't just run past or away from, turning the game into kind of a boss rush. Speaking of bosses, Roberto, who had some pretty hilarious cases of iframes by taking a hilt push to the face and an overhead slam without being phased at all. The flurry attack was a bit scary, but circling to his back solved that one. At least the first time. A moment later, and a push off the edge, and Roberto was done. Monkeys wasn't any issue. A quick gachi and sugar pretty much solved sneaking up on them, and 4 monkeys later, we were done. We were then offered a sword that would definitely kill us if we used it. So obviously I declined it. Who'd want that? And then, swiftly realising that we couldn't really progress with the story, we went back and got it. Why is the refusal even a dialogue option? Thanks to the Dragon Blood stuff, we were fine and acquired the new sword and probably one of the most OP moves in the game, the Mortal Draw. This will come in very useful in the later bosses. We head through Sunken Valley towards Gunfort, which was filled with what must be the world's best climbers, considering we had to use our grappling hook to get through here. Otherwise, I've got no idea how these guys got here. Gunfort ended up being alright, well, apart from one sharpshooter. In my defense, I honestly thought he'd de-aggroed. Why didn't I heal? I'm not really sure. A quick journey back and on to our next boss, the Wolverine cosplayer, which didn't go very well. I think he took issue with the cosplay comment. Tried a couple of things with this guy, dashing around his back, wall jumping, which had mixed results. After 1 or 2 attempts, we started getting the hang of the dash around the back, and once we entered the second phase, I brought out my secret weapons, Fistfuls of Ash, Firecrackers, and the OP Mortal Draw. Centipede done, and I said I'd see him at the next convention. We then dropped down to head to Mibu Village. Honestly, don't know how our arm stays attached with this. We said hello to Jormungandr again, and was time to say hello to Ashna's most formidable gambler, Snake Eyes, who I was hoping had forgotten I owed her quite a bit from last night's poker game, which she hadn't.
Where's the money, Lebowski?
Ended up not too bad. Quick death blow, mortal draw spam, backstabbing out of range to avoid the attacks, which ended badly once, but we still managed to finish her off. We then took back our Sen and moved on. Took out Miss Snowball to turn off the fog machines, ran into local busker, who didn't take kindly that we weren't buying her album, then backstabbed the local ghost. Then it was the time for the part I was worrying about for the entire run. Genny's pet ape. You honestly can buy anything from Amazon these days. The first phase wasn't an issue as you can get into a consistent stun lock. Mostly consistent. The difficulty was in the second phase. Sword range, damage, and combos were all big problems. I knew it was going to be a long day, so before going for round 2, I thought I'd go see my drinking buddy again. Bring in some new sake I'd found on the route. Had some friendly banter with Ishin. He's such a joker. But break over, said I'd catch up later, and was time to carry on. The second phase honestly took me quite a while, but we slowly started getting the grips of it. The scream we could interrupt with a jumping mortal draw. The thrust combo ended up finding a pretty consistent dodge pattern, couple of dodges to the right, get a strike in, and then a couple more dodges to the left. I even tried seeing if I could use the spear on his dive, but ended up not working, which was a shame as that would have sped things up immensely, although I had one funny stagger with it whilst testing. After quite a lot of runs, we got the hang of it, although not without one last heartbreaking run, and then managed to finish it. Guardian Ape, done. With items grabbed and Kuro's shopping list done, it was time to head back. We came across a total surprise. Father. I'd honestly thought the absinthe had done him in last night, and apparently it wasn't done yet. I was hoping he hadn't realised I'd taken some of his prized whiskey back then. Well, hopefully no hard feelings. This was actually the only time in the run where muscle memory took over and accidentally deflected, so I had to let Owl kill me quick so we could start over properly. Which ended up pretty easily. With the help of an extremely cheesy door strat, we committed Patricide and headed down to Koro. After adding the shopping list items to some incense and taking a whiff, which I can't imagine being healthy, we were ready to head to the final stages of our journey. I was quite tired at this point. Hangover was doing better, but fighting father, giant apes, and your ex-best friend really takes it out of you. So I thought I would try to take a quick kip in the nearby tent, and was promptly squished by Straw Monster. I was beginning to question what was in that incense. True Monk ended up being fine. We spammed crackers in the first phase, quick jumping death blow in second phase, and we spammed Fistfuls of Ash in third phase. Easy. Into Fountainhead, where we didn't make the greatest of arrivals by killing the bull mascot and Fountainhead's Ronaldo. Before we finish this off though, I did want to buy one last thing, the finest Dragon Spring sake, for me and my new drinking buddy, so we could celebrate. I knew it was Ishin's favourite and was looking forward to having a toast when I returned. We headed back to Fountainhead into the final arena, meeting a giant dragon holding a sword. Once again, I was seriously questioning what Koro would put in that incense. Nothing different in this fight, so several lightning throws later, and we were done. Time to head back and celebrate. But it was not to be. We returned to find Ishin had passed on. We hadn't known each other long, but we were Sake brothers, and after a toast to his memory, it was time to find Kuro again. Here we were, back to where it all began. Our third and final duel. It'd been a long journey, the hangover was now gone, and we told Geni this was the end. Without the bow flurries, this proved easier than the Ashina Castle fight, and a short moment later, it was done. But Geni had one last trick up his sleeve, bringing back a younger Ishin, and unfortunately the time for drinks had passed. All we could do now is finish the journey. Had a couple of false starts as timing the dodges was hard to judge, and we did get wrecked pretty quickly. But knew getting to third phase would be enough with the lightning reversals, and so with that, and a few mortal draws, we said farewell to Ishin and completed the challenge. Sekiro, without deflecting or blocking, done and dusted. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, be sure to subscribe. We do a whole host of different challenge runs here. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.